Hi folks, let's take a look at statistics on what programming languages and test automation tools are in demand in August 2024. So I've analyzed 700 jobs from LinkedIn. I don't see any significant changes or trends from the beginning of the year, but anyway, here are the statistics. And one more thing, please keep in mind that in some job descriptions, or not in some, in many job descriptions, they have mentionings more than one programming language or test automation tool. For example, they would write something like experience with one or more programming languages, Java, JavaScript, Python, etc. So with all of this in mind, let's see the results. Python, in terms of programming languages, first of all, Python goes on the top, actually exactly almost the same as Java. So they go toe to toe, then JavaScript, and then twice less, let's say, C#.NET. TypeScript is frequently mentioned with JavaScript. They're kind of related. And then significantly less with C++, Node.js, Ruby, Perl, Groovy, and everything else. And just in case for SQL and Bash, how many times they are mentioned? SQL is mentioned in 1/3 of the positions. But usually they ask for it to verify some data or to inject some data before tests. Next one, in terms of so if you're selecting basically which programming language to learn to study, I would advise to go with Python and JavaScript. Java was really popular previously, but now it's losing its popularity, but still being widely used. So I would advise to go with Python or JS. Now, test automation tools, Selenium is still the king, and then Cypress and Playwright goes along together. And I see that a lot of companies started with Cypress because it was hyped, and now some of them are switching to Playwright because Cypress has its own issues. All of the tools, test automation tools, has its own pros and cons, some issues, but I see that in few job description it was mentioned that they started with Cypress, but now they are switching or rewriting everything to Playwright. And usually those two are used mostly with JS. Selenium can be used with Python, Java, C#, whatever, but in most cases if you see Cypress or Playwright, most likely it means they will be used with JavaScript. Then Tosca, Robot Framework, and everything else. You can see WebDriver.io, by the way, not frequently mentioned. Now, in terms of accessibility testing, there are some mentionings about 508 compliance, accessibility testing, WCAG. In terms of BE tools, Cucumber is mentioned in how many? In 10% of job descriptions. Then RSpec goes. RSpec it's for Ruby. For Ruby. BD, Gherkin, Spec, Flow for C# and everything else. So there are still some mentionings for BDD based test automation, but let's say in 1/3 of cases, not more. In terms of API tools testing, Postman is mentioned a lot, SOAP UI, much rarely. Rest Assured, Karate, it's for Java mostly, Java-based frameworks. Ready API, But in most cases, EF API, they will ask for Postman. In terms of test runners, TestNG and JUnit are still mentioned the most. Then go some JavaScript based test runners or unit testing frameworks like Chai, Jest, Mocha, PyTest for Python, and Unit. But again, not a lot of the mentionings of this on the bottom. In most cases, I will write something like you need to have a knowledge of test automation tools like JUnit, TestNG, and so on. So in most cases, they don't necessarily understand why they are mentioning those and which programming language do they need. HRs and other people who write job descriptions, they don't necessarily know which unit testing frameworks are used with which programming language. But anyway, here are the statistics of the mentionings. In terms of performance testing, Gmeter goes on the top with 64 mentionings, then LoadRunner, and then everything else like Gatling, K6, Lowcast, Blazemeter, Artillery. In terms of cloud testing platforms, Browser Stack mentioned most of the times, along with Source Labs, Selenium Grid, Perfecta Mobile, AWS Device Farm. Actually, it was mentioned in a couple of positions. Now, in terms of module test automation, Appium mentioned more frequently than TXUI test for iOS. In terms of cloud computing, AWS mentioned twice more than Azure, and GCP goes on the bottom, but it's been used in some of the job descriptions. In terms of CI/CD, it's Jenkins, then Azure DevOps, GitLab, GitHub Actions, and everything else in minority. In terms of test management, Rally 23, TestRail 22, X-Ray, Mini-Jira X-Ray, TFS, HP Quality Center, and everything else like Qtest, Zephyr, ILM, TestLink. And in terms of containers and virtualization, Docker and Kubernetes are usually asked. So basically that's it. As I mentioned, I don't see any trends comparing to the January, to the beginning of this year. So yeah, if you are selecting programming language to learn to test automation specifically, go with Python or JS. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.